resume recording. So I know that many people were on a call not too long ago and asking about youth services and school programs. So I hope we can cover a lot of that today. Just a few housekeeping things. So a couple of ways you can join today. When you scroll over the bottom of the screen, a menu bar should pop up on your computer. On that, and sometimes if you're on your phone or tablet, it can be on the top of the screen as well. But a microphone should pop up for that. And then also, and you can click and select that or unselect that to mute and unmute yourselves. I know there's a lot of stuff probably happening in the background and everybody's home. So if you just remember, if you're not talking, if you could mute yourself to keep the background noise down, that would be great. And then if you want to join and have the ability to join us by video, there's also a camera there that you can turn on and off as well. And that will let us see you or not see you. And some of you have figured out how to do pictures on here, which is amazing. So good job for you all, because I haven't figured that out yet. But so there's also, that's the way you can mute and unmute yourself. And then for today, we do have closed captioning for today. And that same menu bar, you will see a tab with a CC. It's a little square box and it has the letter CC in there. And that will let you open the captioning and see that as well. And then those of you that are on the phone, if you could press *6 to mute yourself, if you are not already in the conversation or if there's background noise, and then *9 if you want to raise your hand to talk. So I think that okay. So if you're not already connected with us, I encourage you to follow that link to make sure I have your email. If you did not get this straight from me, that means that your email was not working for me. So email me and let me know that you're not getting it. Today is the Youth Coordinators Connect agenda. So just kind of intro, we're going to be talking about our program. I do want to be talking a little bit about the solution sharing piece. If you have direct questions. And then this is really what we're going to be spending the majority of our time today is COVID. Okay, so, and I'm just going to go ahead and let you know, I am home with 2 little ones, so they might pop into the screen throughout this call, and I apologize if so. Okay, and just a reminder, if you are not speaking right now, if you could go ahead and mute yourself, you can do that on the screen. Let's see. Or you can do that by hitting *6. Okay, so I guess let's just go ahead and start the conversation and see where everybody is at. She's napping, clearly. Okay, so how is everybody home? Is anybody not at home at this point? I'm okay taking that everybody is at home, at least by the background and the cool pictures, at least. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to just ask are what do you all want to know? What's something that would really help you with your program right now, or where are you all struggling with those things? And you can, again, *6 to unmute yourself if you're on the phone, or the microphone to unmute yourself. I need you
to. This is Paige from Able, South Carolina. I know every state's VR is working a little differently, but ours has actually stopped funding for our pre-ETS work until they kind of get their staff up and running. Since we're a contractor, I think we fall a little lower on that totem pole. So we really had to figure out just kind of what our funding looked like in order to continue working with our youth. So we kind of jumped in and started some online things through Zoom, just to keep them engaged and make sure they're connected and getting resources they need. And then we're really just trying to work with our VR to get that contract up and running again, so that we can expand and continue serving those youth. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
There we go. Now you can hear me. Are you having a good luck with hearing back from the youth? Are they joining into the Zoom calls that you're holding, or?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag. It's some that we've definitely connected with, unlike those ones that were in the school for 6 weeks and then we're out. So there's a couple of them. We had a lot of teachers that signed youth up and were following up to make sure that they were attending and they were using it as part of their like e-learning packets and schoolwork that they were required to do. So that certainly helps. But it's kind of a mixed bag. We've tried like in the morning and afternoons, and then we're going to try different days next week to see if maybe that changes attendance.
Okay. Anybody else? How is that working? What are you finding with your programs?
Sarah Harris. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, awesome. Just making sure. All right, so Sarah Harris, Resources for Independent Central Valley and Fresno. You know, it's being creative, right? So we've been working remotely since March 17th. I'm still providing service, you know, one-on-one over the phone via Zoom. And what I have found to be like one of the best things to do right now is to work on things like person-centered plans and resumes, because those are things that you can sit over the phone and work on. We also started last week. We have a youth group that's for ages 16 to 28 called Be About It, because you know you don't just talk about it, you got to be about it. So we started last Friday our virtual hangout, which will be happening every week. And we actually had 20 youth on the call, which was awesome. And so I'm blind, so I had other people telling me what some of the youth were doing. Some were exercising, some were laying on their bed. Some had walked away from the completely from the call. So that was kind of fun, but that seems to be working pretty well. And thank you. I just heard that come through. I'm actually blind, guys, for those of you who don't know. So it's kind of cool because I can still hear all the messages come through. And, you know, and I suggest if you're able to do that, you know, give it a shot, because, you know, our poor youth are sitting at home and they are super bored too. And we want to make sure that they're staying engaged. And one of the things that I want to suggest, and it's what I'm doing on Friday, is to talk to them about social media safety, because if I'm getting 10 Facebook requests a day, they probably are too. And we want to remind them to not allow like everybody to be your friend, especially people you don't know, because it could end up being a weirdo. So that's just my suggestion. But no, things are going pretty well. But it's so funny. I feel like I'm busier than ever, which is cool.
Awesome. And you said that you're doing Google Hangout. Is that how you were meeting?
No, Zoom.
Zoom. Okay. So Zoom seems to be the ticket. And Paige, I heard you said you were doing that. Are either one of you or anybody else on the call, when this just got brought up, we were talking about it as staff, and I've heard it in other places. How are you making sure that your Zoom calls are safe? I know that's like the big thing, because if people can hack something, they're going to hack it. How are you all ensuring that the safety of those groups and things, or are you able to?
I don't think we're able to be honest. I think that, you know, the hacking has always kind of happened. I just think it's more in the spotlight right now. So it's more of just, you know, kind of crossing your fingers and, you know, watching your participants that come in, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't know that there's, you know, a whole lot that can be done. Maybe I'm wrong.
This is Michael Beers from Montana. I think the most we've done is just really limit where we share the links and the passwords. so we're not sharing it over open public media. We've established a lot of Facebook groups specific to different programming. So if it's whatever the Zoom might be, whether it's our yoga class or our wrestling group, we only share the Zoom. And I can elaborate on those if you want, but we only share within those Facebook groups and make sure our youth are aware that, you know, if they share them on their public outlets, social media and otherwise, that there is the potential to be hacked and, you know, end up with a troll. So I think in addition to like limit sharing, you know, making sure your participants know what hacking could look like. So, you know, in specific trolling. So if you're trying to do a group, you don't want to share it and have somebody unrelated with, you know, weird motivations coming in and messing with your time. So and so far, you know, fingers crossed, we haven't had any issues.
I've been able to, this is Lana Gonzalez from Link in Boise, Idaho. I've been able to find a few articles that talk about ways to prevent it, like don't allow screen sharing by people participating, using the password features. There's a few really good articles on how to prevent that kind of hacking that I was able to find that are pretty easy to Google and find, just so you know.
Awesome. I didn't think about the screen sharing. That's a good point. Thank you.
Super good point.
Those were good. Okay, so password, I'm trying to make sure I capture them. Password, and then that making sure you prevent who can screen share and things like that. Those are all good. So it sounds like youth are really joining into what everybody's doing though. They're wanting to engage in those ways. What's anybody else have experiences with how you're engaging, or do you want to share that?
This is Amy from Tyler, Texas. I have another question for you guys as far as using distance technology. Has anybody had any concerns about HIPAA and whether or not you guys feel like we're considered to be sharing protected health information by doing trainings online or anything like that? We've been trying to figure that out in our office.
This is Mel's. One of the things that we've been making a point to do up in our office in Spokane is that we'll still be using like whatever media platform we can get our hands on to get a hold of consumers, but anything confidential, anything I restate at the beginning, like we just a couple weeks ago we had our first like complete digital intake ever. And making sure it's like, yes, we're talking through a FaceTime right now. However, the like our intake form, which, you know, has Social Security, disability history, medical, it's like that only stays within our official email channel. So it's only going to our @whatourcenteris.org. For us, it's DAC and W, but like just making sure that like anything that's confidential stays within those more protected email chains, not letting anything be posted public. Don't send it over Facebook, don't send it over anything but email, just to like keep it as safe as possible. I mean, we live in a world where everything can be hacked, but just doing that, that's the approach that we've been taking with it.
Thank you, and thank you for the chat responses too. That's all very helpful.
This is Mary. If I can add, oh,
yeah, no, I was getting ready to say, hey, Mary, I know you guys have been talking about that.
yeah. So I just want to say that we've been working on this issue about confidentiality, and the first thing I want to say is this: is that we all understand that these are different times we're living in, and so the regulations and they're more lax now. But I am going to drop something in the chat if I can figure out how. One of our centers in Iowa came up with a form that they're having consumers to sign And it's basically just informing the consumer that we're going to do the best that we can to have confidentiality today. However, with staff members being at home with family members and it being a little more loose with who might be popping into your screen at any moment, they put together a document where consumers can sign it, just letting them know that we're going to do the best that we can, and also it may not be completely confidential, just so that they're informed. And we're hearing that that is that's acceptable, because right now we're just all kind of doing the best we can with what we have. We are talking right now about what are the best platforms. I've heard Blue Jeans is HIPAA compliant. Zoom is as well, as long as you use a password protection. If you get Google Suite through Google Meet, then you can also add a password, and that is also confidential electronically, but that doesn't account for the other folks that might be popping into our rooms. So I'll try to drop that in, Sierra. If you guys want to use it and adapt it, feel free to.
Awesome. And then I'm just going to catch up on some of the comments that we're seeing come in. So some people are using Google Meet, which I actually just used Google Meet for school, not for me, but for my daughter, and that has closed captioning already filtered in. You're not going to get the cart level of closed captioning, but you are going to get pretty close from at least my conversation. I tried some harder words to understand, and it got almost all of them. So there's also that option. So some people are using it for staff meetings, but not necessarily consumer meetings, because it might not fall into the HIPAA piece because there's not a necessarily password sometimes. And then I'm seeing Discord, which I know Mel's, you're the one that introduced me to that. And so some other people have started using that, which is, and I'm probably going to mess it up, so correct me if I'm wrong, Mel's, that's a gaming chat room that you can also use just for chatting as well. Did I get it?
Yeah, that's correct. Like, Discord was originally made for gaming. You're able to use it while like playing games, so it's pretty much made to take up like less data or energy from your computer. So like you can do like the high energy things like playing games. But we've been using it for our I introduced it wider ever since we all went remote. I introduced it wider to our DAX offices, all four offices, and it's been working really well. It's nice to be able to communicate with people, especially, honestly, even after all this, I want to continue this form of communication. If you have satellite offices, it's really helpful to be able to have like those quick conversations that don't take up a whole email.
This is Masha Flynn in Casper. Speaking to Mel's point, because I'm actually a college student, and one of our hi Mel's, one of my professors is actually using Discord to communicate with his students. So he's able to, because a lot of professors, at least down here in Wyoming, a lot of professors use slideshows to get across their content. And so the one good thing with my professor is that he's able to, we're able to conversate, through audio and stuff, but then he's also able to do a live stream and be able to share his computer screen with us so that we're able to see the slideshows that he's talking about. So I think that's, especially if you have somebody that's more of a visual learner as opposed to an audio learner, I feel like that would be a huge asset to just trying to explain something that might be a little bit more complicated to understand. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. I know there's so many of those live pieces as well. And I see, so there's even more coming in. You guys are sharing so much good information on here. Pam has said one of their webinars I have done suggested we do a remote platform release form. Not quite sure what to include on that. If anybody has any thoughts on that one. And then Zoom does have cart access. you have to get carts separately to add it in. So that was one of the questions as well. So if you're on this call, there's on the menu bar, there's a CC button that can pop up. So, and Mary did just drop in all that information for authorization of telecommunications stuff. So that's on there as well. What else is everybody doing? What questions do you have?
I have a question. This is Mel's. I was wondering what apps or whatever it's called are y'all using to get those digital signatures for things that need to be signed, but we're not there in person, so they can't physically sign it. I know I've seen people use DocuSign, but I'm not sure if that's a subscription service or what that is. So yeah, I wanted to throw that out there and see what everybody's using.
Hey Mels, this is Alicia. We're using, a few of us at our organization have been using DocHub, and DocHub is a free, completely free Google add-on. You can just select it when you open up a document, you know, you click open with, and you can click add, or it might be already there, and you can click on DocHub and you can do a signature on DocHub, insert your signature directly into the PDF, and then save it as a PDF or to your Google Suite. So that's been helpful because DocuSign, yes, I do believe is a subscription service. So yeah. Yes.
Thank you. And somebody else had said, B. Callahan had said, our state is saying to get a verbal signature and then have 45 days after emergency to get in-person signature. They're in Virginia, and this is for some programs, but not all. So also thinking about the different programming that you have. And Paige was saying South Carolina is similar. Okay. Really, does anybody have any other ideas that you've been doing? The other thing I wanted to just ask too, how are you engaging young people? We know that a lot of times this is not very fun. And sometimes it may be what we need right now is to have a group of people on a call, but how are you making sure that, one, you're keeping it engaging and youth interested besides just talking, or also secondly, how are you keeping things accessible so that youth are able to access what you're doing?
Cool. Sierra, this is Beers in Missoula. So we've moved a majority of our programming that we were doing physically at BASE, which is a program, is basically our community center online. And I apologize, there's an upset bulldog behind me, if you hear that. So we've been able to use Zoom. Also, Facebook has through Messenger, has a pretty good video service, and Google. So we've been kind of going with what's most accessible to the group we're working with as far as technology. And we've had pretty good engagement. So on Wednesdays, I think I mentioned we did have a yoga class. Now we're Zooming that from 4 to 5. And we actually got more attendance. So typically we see 6 to 8 people. But because we're able to throw it out to a larger community, we got 15 people in and out of that. We also have the wrestling group that I mentioned in regards to having fun is probably the program that has accelerated since we took it online. So in that group, a lot of our students, and when I say students, I mean people we work with and engage with on a weekly basis, high school to 30s. They're huge professional wrestling fans. So in this group, we talk about wrestling. Each one of us, if we want to, we come up with a character. And you decide whether you're a heel or a hero, your entry music. And we don't do any physical wrestling because we all know that liability won't cover that. But we do, in the past, we've done like, hey, let's roll D&D dice to see who wins this match. And who can slam a bubbly water the fastest. Now that we're online, we're doing promo videos. So anybody that's watched professional wrestling, it's like 90% of it is the back and forth between wrestlers and calling people out and, kind of setting up that drama. So in our group, everybody, it's all voluntary. But if you want to, we're trying to keep one video a week. So it's the students at home using their laptop or their cell phone, filming a promo video saying this is, I'm the Hangry Hobbit. That's my wrestling persona. Constantly in search of second breakfast. But yeah, the Hangry Hobbit would call out Fashion Man, who's another one of our wrestlers. John, who also works, setting up challenges. So whether it's through wrestling or not, but they're doing a technical lounge challenge. So to win, they have to take pictures and post or video of them lounging during quarantine. So who can lounge the best is the current competition. And then on certain nights, there's wrestling on TV. We open up a group chat on Messenger, and we all watch remotely and comment and chat during Facebook. We're moving our improv group. There's actually a number of improv groups, games that work really well on Zoom. So we're going to go live with that here this week. And then some like D&D groups and role-playing groups that we've started have moved pretty seamlessly online. So yeah, and we've had pretty good engagement so far. That's what we're doing to have fun.
So who wants to follow that one? I am now requiring, if you are going to speak, you must speak using your wrestling name. So you don't have one. It's time to know a good one. Hangry Hop. Yes, that will be your name.
Yeah, I would also, I can send you the kind of the schedule, and given that we are on a virtual format, and I think this would be cool for all of us because we are there. Some of those boundaries are lesser now. If you're working, anybody on the call is working with students that would be engaged by something like this, because they're into that, we'd be happy to have them as a part of the group or help connect them with something as well.
That's awesome. That's a lot. And I think that also goes to show that what you're doing really in person, yes, you have the physical contact and with somebody else, but a lot of what we do is so engaging, and we have the ability a lot of times for the technology to be there to really just transform that onto a video, and everybody kind of modifying it to do it remotely in their own homes, but still keeping that consistency of what they enjoyed and how they were engaging before, even if it is wrestling matches of bubbly drinks. So
I'm going to jump in just because I know that my coworker put it in the chat box what we're going to do. So I thought I'd also say, this is Erin from Link in Boise, Idaho. We have a pretty brand new group. We only meet once a month. And so we are meeting next week or the week after, and we're going to try jackbox.tv. You have to go through a process to get it onto your computer, but it's pretty simple after that. You have the host share their screen, and basically anybody who you do need two devices. You have like a laptop and a phone, a laptop and a tablet or iPad, or a phone and an iPad. But one is to be on the call, and then the second device is used to do drawing. And basically it's a little bit like, I don't know, Lana might come in and tell me.
It's a little bit like Pictionary. It's a little bit by Pictionary. Everybody on their own device that doesn't see it, that tells you what to draw. and then everybody draws something, and then it submits to the big screen on Zoom where you can see what is this thing that this person drew, and everybody guesses what it is, and you get different points for tricking people into guessing the right thing. And it's just super engaging. We did a practice run with our staff, and we really did have a lot of fun. So we're kind of excited about giving that a try next week. I've done it with my kids and family members across the country, and it's been really engaging for them.
Awesome. That's really awesome. And there was some others Patrick had put in. I'm trying to scroll back up to what Patrick had done. He did a virtual, where did it go? A virtual field trip to NASA, I think.
Hello, Sarah. How are you
Hey,
doing?
Patrick, do you want to share what you guys have been up to? That's awesome. We've got so much.
Yeah, last week what we did was we did our first virtual museum tour NASA. So what we did was that we first researched the week before a blog that has a list of all the museums around the world, and it has like a list like where we could actually do a virtual field trip. So we selected NASA as something more exciting and much more I'd say interactive. So then Paula, what she did was she organized the whole conference through Zoom. And from there, the youth joins in, and that's like how we see each other, just like what we're doing right now. So we're like visiting NASA, and at the same time, we're talking about it. So tomorrow, we're going to be having our first virtual movie day with our youth tomorrow.
Awesome. And then Mary, I'm going to call on you again since you're on here. You're going to hate that you join in, but if you can get that same link before of all the games that are online, or is that already on our website?
It's on our website. I'll pull it down right now.
Okay, so with all of these other activities, thank you for sharing that, Patrick. With Japbox, it sounds like with that Pictionary kind of game, there's a lot of online gaming options as well. Simply as something like Uno that you can play with somebody else. And so we have linked that to our website, and then I think Mary's going to drop it in the chat as well. For different games, if you want to add that into what you're already doing and have people connect that way as well. That was something else that popped in my mind as y'all were talking about all these different things. And the virtual field trip, if you can figure out the logistics to getting it all on everybody on the screen at the same time like Patrick did, there's so many virtual field trips that people are offering. There's the zoo every single day does a whole thing on different animals and all of that. There's all sorts of different places that you can go right now. There's a lot of state and federal parks that you can go and tour. So if you could do that as a group, I think that would be that would probably be very, very good. And I'm thinking all the field trips that our youth always wanted to do, and it always involved traveling through multiple states. And we were like, all right, so where's the money for that? So now I can be like, hey, look, here it is online. I would have loved that then. Oh, and Amy's asking, how would you do a virtual movie day through Zoom? And then I'm going to kick that out to all of you. Oh, look, Mary's already answering it. When you host, you can click on the controls and click and share the sound through Zoom, and then you can share the movie screen. As I shared my screen earlier to show you just a few slides, it looks like that would be the best way to do that then.
Sarah, you actually have to allow yourself to share the sound on your computer. It's on that ... when you're the host, and you click that, and you actually have to say, I want to share sound through my Zoom. And I'd be happy to, I've been setting up tutorials with people one-on-one. I'd be happy to do that for folks if they want.
Yeah, and that's something that, as April, I don't know if you're aware, Mary has always worked from that, well, not from that fine kitchen, but that new fine kitchen now. And I've always worked from this room. So this is kind of what we do. If you have questions, we are not experts on Zoom, but I've done some trainings and we've messed up a lot and learned a lot. So we can help you through some of those processes as well. I guess, does anybody else have any questions or any of those types of things? I know we threw out a lot I do just want to make sure, as we are coming up with all these virtual ways of doing everything, make sure you know who your group is and who your participants are, and their accommodation needs. So if you are doing something visual, which is awesome, you know, if we're doing yoga or the Pictionary or any of those things online, it's a great way to engage. But make sure there's somebody there that can audio describe what's going on, or that there is some sort of captioning, if that's needed as well. Let's make sure that we are definitely being inclusive, because I know right now so many schools and programs and stuff are going, well, we don't have time to accommodate. And I think that's just so important for us as centers to make sure that we are making sure that all the people that want to join and participate in our programs have the ability to. Which also leads me to, we're talking about everything being online. What are you doing in those rural areas where you may not have people that have internet access? How are we keeping those individuals engaged? Does anybody have thoughts or can share how you're doing that?
Hi, I'm Shay with in Utah, and we're just in a very low income area. We're in Ogden, Utah, which is one of the lowest income areas in the nation. And so most of our students don't have internet, they don't have cell phones, they don't have anything like that. So one thing that we've just decided to do is just do weekly phone calls with them. Still stay connected, still do fun things with them, but that way we have that opportunity to still connect with them without using the technology that they just really don't have access to.
Can you share, when you're doing those phone calls and you said you're doing fun things, can you share a little bit about what those are?
Right now we're mostly based on pre-eds. So we are doing, our pre-eds classes. So we are talking about self-advocacy. So we are we just started this week. So we're still trying to figure out what fun things we're going to start doing. My team, we've kind of been talking about like maybe doing some games, even just talking about what they're doing, keeping them engaged, kind of just checking in with them. Because we're kind of finding that nobody's even doing that with them, just to kind of make that connection. So like I said, we're still working on the funner things, but we're getting there.
And I think that's really good to make sure, if that's what you were doing before too, that brings that normalcy for so many as well. And what I'm hearing a lot of is that people are needing to know the strongest advocacy skills now to make sure that they are still being involved with what they need to be involved with, whether it be school or an outside activity as well. So I think that's awesome. And I know that that's so many people across the country are facing that. And this is an awesome way that they're doing that. And I'm curious if our town could do this, but Mary had just dropped in about a rural town in Oregon that took their school buses with Wi-Fi and parked them around rural communities for folks. So that's something you can ask your school systems for as well, if that's something your buses have. And I know I keep hearing everywhere that there's a lot of internet providers. If you just have a phone line, they're offering free internet service. You just have to actually call and sign up. And so sometimes that requires an all-day event. But that's also something to encourage them to look into. So you mentioned like your pre-ETS program. How are you guys keeping, or are you, I guess, I know Shay, you said you were, but as anybody else continuing their programs that they were doing as far as, I cannot get my words out at all, as far as the skill building or the advocacy or any of those types of things, the services that were provided outside of the engaging fun stuff, which we know can sometimes dual purpose some of those services, but are you able to do that? I know you said you were doing it by phone, but.
Our Department of Ed kind of stepped in and helped us out with some of that. And they're really connecting us with teachers so that we can share we're converting a lot of our lessons that we do in the classroom into Google Classroom format. So pre-recording videos of like that direct instruction piece, and then trying to translate all those activities into something that they can do virtually through that classroom. So that's been helpful to connect through the teachers that way and continue with some of those students that we've been seeing all school year. It's a little different, and there's some learning curves with that, and sharing some of that role with a teacher more than just coming into a classroom and holding space for an hour and leaving. A lot more communication on that end, but I think that's been super helpful for us. So Google Classroom is a learning experience, and one that I have not enjoyed very much, but I think it's good because it provides a lot of outreach, and it's a tool that can stay, and that hopefully we can use once we find whatever normalcy that will hopefully come back soon.
And then Shannon, I'm unmuting you now if you want to join into the conversation.
Hey y'all. So similarly, I've been trying to communicate a lot more with the teachers, and this semester I've been working with students in a more rural community, and it seems like what I've heard a lot with the kids, especially at the alternative high school, they don't have access to those phones and those laptops, computers, things. So doing the Zoom meeting with one of my classes is going to work because all of those girls in that class have access. But for this other class, the teachers are like, I've only even been able to get a hold of 2 of my students out of 7, things like that are actually like participating in the online stuff. So that's been a problem on our end. And I know my coworker who was working here in town, their teachers were just struggling so much with just the remote learning aspect for his class with their own material that they're like, let's just hold off because our kids are so overwhelmed already. So it's been hard to get that fast track, that pre-step stuff, the pre-ets going on our end too. But I'm going to do a WebEx with the one class to speak about soft skills of flexibility and adaptability, and just talk about jobs that require that, things like that.
Awesome. I'm glad that you brought in that alternative school piece, because I think those are schools that are definitely we've been involved with that may not have those resources or support at home either.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else? Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Sorry, I actually had a question for Shay. I was wondering, I know you're touching base with people by phone. Have you thought about, or are you sending packets at all in the mail? That's one thing that we've been trying to talk about. Some consumers tell me that they're real scared about opening their mail even. So I just was wondering if you've tried that, if it seemed to work at all.
Go ahead. I am.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
It's something that we thought about doing the packets. That's what the school district is doing because we are such a low income area. The school is sending them home packets. We still one of our requirements from our state pre-ets is it has to be a very interactive process still in order for it to still be a qualified service. And so, kind of just brainstorming the different ways to still make it an interactive process with the students. That's why we kind of thought the phone call and doing the lesson over the phone with the student was going to be a more interactive than just sending them a packet. We are going to, we have talked, because I'm doing like a weekly meeting with my team about like, maybe we'll save all the information and send it out like once a month, like kind of a review of everything we went over. So they do still have that information. But that's kind of where we are with that.
No, that's great. That's what I was wondering is I'm just as a supplement to the phone call. Like, yeah. I just know, because I'm hearing from people, they're like, well, if we're just doing a phone call, then we miss the people who are visual learners, and how do we do that? And I don't know.
Yeah, so that's why you're thinking just once a month, because that way it's not too overwhelming. And then, like I said, because they're already getting a weekly packet from school, and honestly, that's not very fun or interactive.
Yeah. Has anybody else had any luck with the phone calls or even mailing or packets or anything like that? Anything beyond the computer technology piece? Was that Marcy, did you want to join in? Okay. Maybe.
I
Oh, go ahead.
I can.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I called a couple youth, and it was like pulling teeth for their parents to even get them on the phone, because it was like if they're not doing school, they're just so connected with their friends. A couple of them said like they're Zoom chatting with like a group of friends every day. They get online on Xbox and chat because they have a feature in there where they can like interact with their avatars and chat, and it's just kind of like they didn't even really want to talk to me. So that was kind of a challenge. So I got yeah, no, yeah. So it was, I mean, I checked in, I did what I could do. I said I'm here if you need something, but you know, teenagers.
Yeah. And Paige just commented, we've worked with a parent who is blind, and all her students' work is coming home in printed materials. So we've had to advocate with her for the school to be sure to think beyond just the students for accommodations. And that honestly brings me to where I'm getting a flood of emails. Your students that you may be working one-on-one with, maybe you work with them in groups at the school, but how are your students getting with the IEP accommodations or the 504 accommodations? I'm seeing a lot of people going, oh, well, there's just nothing we can do. Good luck. Here's what you got. Have any of y'all run into that? I see that you're advocating for that, Paige.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're getting a flood of emails from parents that are saying, like, I had one this morning where she said the description of non-reader is like sits totally different with me now that I'm going through this work with my student, and I realized the lack of assistive technology, and so now this parent is ready to advocate for AT for their child, but it's a lot harder to get right now. So we can only refer to so many things, but we're having to do a lot of, can we sit down with you, Department of Ed, and talk through what this looks like on a larger scale, because it's happening all over the state and not just within, one particular district where we can really make a connection and work with. We're seeing it all over the place. And I don't really know. I feel like with the way things are constantly changing and the idea of those waivers and just kind of hands in the air, I know there's a lot of conversation of not even looking at extended school year unless there's like extreme regression. I feel like there's a lot of unknown in that, and how to, it definitely is something that we need to be advocating for and working together to make sure students are getting what they need. But I feel like just the way things are constantly changing day to day, it's really hard to kind of keep up with what is happening and where things are getting lax when they shouldn't, and vice versa.
Okay, and then there's another comment in there that says there was a statement from the Department of Education, IEPs will have to be done remotely and adjusted. Everybody, I know that's working with an IEP locally, they're saying that, oh, well, that just needs to be postponed. It doesn't count right now. And so that's what we're seeing a lot of, unfortunately. But I like working with the Department of Education and go ahead and letting them know. I think also letting them know that there's not just a parent there, but there's an organization that is an advocacy organization as a Center for Independent Living that is watching too, and is there ready to say, no, that's not right. I think sometimes helps that they can't just sweep some of those things under. Oh, and Shannon, you were saying you've already received a Zoom meeting request for an IEP. That's awesome. So that's good. Then I think Brooke had said, I've heard of SILS doing a Facebook Live activities for those who have access. I think going back to how are you connecting with those students? So that Facebook Live piece is, they're already on there a lot of times, or Instagram Live, they're already on there as well. But yeah, that's something that we're coming up against, I think, a lot of.
Yeah. If I could just mention something a little bit, and this might be a little bit off topic, but the one thing I would like to stress, if you guys know any youth, so like I'm 24, and I live by myself. I, go to school, go to work, all these type of things. And I'm actually working with a youth down here right now that's kind of in a similar position as I am. She's getting ready to graduate high school and go into college. And she, I had the school district actually reach out to me and ask for my help, because I had no help when I was getting ready to transition from high school to college. And so the one thing I would say is that if you know of any youth that are being successful within your programs, or previous youth that have been successful within your programs, utilize them to connect with your other youth, because they're going to connect with people that are their same age a lot more than they're going to connect with you. I hate to say it that way, but that's the one thing that I've noticed with the youth that I'm working with, because she hadn't really been engaging with her school director as much as she's been connecting with me. And I think that's just because she and I are in such similar situations, and I can relate to her and help her through the process. I may not always have the answers, but then that's where I turn back to my, my bosses and my coworkers and say, this is what the situation is. How do I explain this to her to where it makes sense? So that's my 2 cents, is that if you, even if they're in a different state, or something like that, reach out to those youth, because I know, at least for myself, if you guys would like any help from me in that sense, I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can. So
thank you, Masha. I think that's a really good point. Somebody else have a comment?
It's Mel's. I'm not sure. Like, I just wanted to add, because this is something that we've been talking about a lot at our center. It's like, this is the time for peer support, if there ever was one. Like, there's always time for peer support, but specifically, like, right now, like, I just got off of a census project, and I was like, oh my gosh, our numbers are bad, and because like all of our canvassing got canceled. And then I was like, wait a second, every single other person is in this boat. So like, in personal life, it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm reaching out to one person that I know a day to make sure that they're okay. But for professional life, it's like, if you usually reach out to a consumer a certain amount of times, potentially double that, or just that check-in. Like, and just, even if you can't fix a problem, the ability to listen is, I know it's been like, at least from the feedback I get from the consumers we have up here, is just like that it's helpful.
I love that. Yeah. No, and that's something that we can offer as being peer support. So using all of the services that we do regularly, I think, is very important, and understanding that sometimes there's finding who that peer is, even if it isn't you, I think is really great. And connecting with who, maybe it's somebody out of state as well. Yeah, that's what I've been suggesting to people, Mary. So Mary had just put in, I've been wondering whether or not state AT programs might be willing to send out iPads, laptops. They have helped isolated youth during these times. Has anyone tried? But yeah, so kind of going back to our conversation before, I've been suggesting people reach out to their assistive technology program to see what they can offer and how they can support. But I think, that brings me back also something I wanted to just mention during this call as well, is just that mental health piece of, sometimes it's not just a game that you need to play, or not just an advocacy skill that you need to learn, but that you're in a house and you don't like it, and just connecting with somebody and be able to share that because you're stuck there. And so having that place where they can come and share those thoughts, or having that person that they can contact in whatever method or means works for them. And consumers are saying it's nice to hear a friendly voice. So definitely something to think about as you're having those conversations and all of that. Sometimes you don't need to teach the skill. Maybe sometimes just checking in with the individuals and going, hey, what do you not like about this situation? Let me tell you the things I don't like, and maybe that will help you. Or what do you like? Do you like being stuck at home? I personally have found out that I'm much more introvert and comfortable with that during this process than I thought I was. Turns out I like people on a computer screen. But I think that's good to check in with everybody. And I do also just want to note too, make sure you're taking care of yourself. A lot of times when we are trying so hard to reach out to our consumers, we're dealing with a lot as well. So reach out to your supervisor, your directors, if you need some support as well. Feel free to reach out to us. This is why I love these calls. We are all pretty much doing very similar work with the similar populations. And if you're struggling, if you send me an email, I can send that out to the group and kind of get group feedback on that as well. So feel free to do that during this time, from this call to the next time we have a call. And if there is a particular thing that you all want to talk about or learn about, please let me know that as well. Like I know somebody had mentioned fears. They would like to know more about how you're doing some of the things you're doing and maybe a lesson on some of those things. If that's something that everybody's really interested in, not just everything Beers is doing, but if something particularly, then let me know and we can try to pull together some of the information. A couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention. If there's somebody that would like to work on some of these things of how are we able to deliver services, and how are we able to reach young people? If you could contact me and let me know that's something that you're interested in, we're trying to pull together a task force of people serving young people to pull together some of these main ideas to really get some resources out and make sure that we're providing it to those that maybe don't really know how to do this or that need some support doing it. The other thing is we are in the works right now of scheduling another meeting separately from these, but you all are invited. If you're running summer programs, if you usually run a summer program, we are going to be doing a discussion on now what are you going to do? Our youth leadership forum here has now been canceled because the university has canceled their camps and everything outside of any university work. So that has been canceled for us here in this state. But I know there's lots of states that have summer programs through the centers or camps that you run. And we want to be able to talk about that and kind of share some of those ideas. So we're going to be trying to plan and pull that together in the next week or two. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. I'll send it out through the listserv also, but also if you want to know directly, just connect with me. The other thing I want to make sure everybody got, VR has sent out, this is kind of a side note, but VR has sent out an email about VR collaboration ideas. They have some videos to watch, and one of the things we find is that we have lots of videos that we can watch right now, since we may not have so many people to meet with. I encourage you, if you have not gotten that email, let me know. I dropped my email into the chat box. If you could let me know and I'll send that directly to you, but there's a lot of good information on, everybody's talking about this pre-ETS funding, and I know that's been a conversation for those that do not have pre-ETS funding. How are you getting that? And that answers a lot of those questions. So I would love to send that out to anybody that wants to find their free time filled with lots of things. I think those were all my to-dos for today. Our next call is in 2 weeks. So please, we usually do it once a month, but we're going to do 2 in April. And the next one's April 21st. Right now it is on curriculum and material sharing. So what I kind of am imagining is that we're going to be talking about what curriculums can we offer in this setting. But I think it's also a good time to review some of these curriculums and see what works for your program when we find our whatever normal was before. And that way you're primed and ready for what you want to do if you're going to schools or having groups. So we're going to be chatting about some of those options, and some of those are online options as well. So please join us April 21st at 2 o'clock. And I did get everybody's messaging in there of everybody that wants all the stuff. So I'll capture that chat and send it out. And then I guess, and like I said, if you have any other questions, please just let me know. I am dropping an evaluation into the chat box right now. So if you need that, or if you could fill that out for us, if you can follow that link, that would help us to make sure we're getting better here. But thank you all for joining us. Stay safe, and we will chat in just a few weeks, April 21st.
Hi, Sierra.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Nora.
I have a unicorn necklace.
You have a unicorn necklace? Oh man, Riley's running around in her Wonder Woman outfit right now. She tried to fly on screen. We'll have to FaceTime you.
Mm-hmm.